Alright, so as you know, Sonic Resistance, or Project Sonic 2017, is coming out in about a year or so from now. And a lot of people who've seen the trailer agree that they're getting 06 and Sonic Sat.AM vibes from the trailer. Now 06 is known to be very similar to the adventure games, and it seems like this game could be as well. Now I'm not saying that this game is Sonic Adventure 3. Iizuka said it's not a sequel, he said it's a brand new experience, he made it very clear. But just like how 06 wasn't a sequel, could this game be some sort of reboot that brings back adventure ideas while also keeping the new things that they've learned from modern Sonic? Like essentially an adventure modern Sonic hybrid, a mix of those two eras. Firstly, we all know that classic and modern Sonic are in the trailer and they're probably going to be playable. The mistake that I think everyone is making is that they assume that they already know how they're going to control, which is just like Generations. But remember, we haven't actually seen any gameplay. We don't know what they have in store for us. In the trailer, it seemed like classic Sonic was boosting at a point, and it even seemed like modern Sonic spin dashed if you listen to the sound effects. And Iizuka did say it's a brand new experience, so it's too early to assume that you know how the game is going to play. At this point, we can only speculate. For all we know, classic Sonic could have a 3D gameplay style, similar to how Sonic controlled in SA1, with a spin dash but in a 3D environment. He could even have some new moves, like you know how you had upgrades in the adventure games, and slightly slower gameplay than modern Sonic, which would allow for level design that was in games like SA1 and 06 to make a comeback. You know, that more open feeling level design that you had in SA1 and 06. Now if this happened, it would make sense if modern Sonic would retain the boost formula developed in Unleashed and somewhat perfected in Generations. Now you might be wondering why I think classic Sonic may have 3D gameplay. Well, when Unleashed, Colors and Generations came out, people enjoyed the boost, but I guess they also missed the non-boost games like the adventure games, Heroes, and even 06 in terms of what the game was trying to be. And then when they made Lost World, people liked having the spin dash back, and a lot of people liked the parkour, but there was still a lot of people that started to miss the boost formula because the boost games most likely brought a ton of new fans to the series. From my own personal comment section in my videos, I know there's some people who actually prefer the boost games to the adventure games. And as you already know, Sonic fans are pretty divided when it comes to what they want in a Sonic game. But you can probably summarize most Sonic fans into 3 categories: the classic fans, the adventure fans, and the boost fans. So the classic fans will be fans of the classic Sonic games, 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, CD. Adventure fans is like the whole adventure era, so from SA1 up until 06, so that includes Heroes and Shadow. Don't have to like all the games in the era, but those kind of games that were non-boost and more open feeling. And then the boost fans who like daytime stages and Unleashed, modern Sonic Generations, and Sonic Colors. Of course there's some grey areas because certain styles can mix up points. For example, Sonic Rush is a 2D game, but it's not really a classic Sonic game because it's got the boost, you know, that kind of thing. But overall there's 3 main categories. I'm sure there's some people that may like more than one of these styles, or even all 3, like I do. I mean, I personally like the adventure category the most, but I still like the boost and the classic games. But the point is, if they made Sonic Mania to pander to the classic Sonic fans, and they make classic Sonic and Sonic Resistance have 3D adventure style gameplay, and then they make modern Sonic have the boost, wouldn't they essentially be satisfying 99% of the fans? Think about it. Now if this did happen, then I'd definitely say that this game is on the way to being an adventure and modern hybrid. But to really be sure of that, we need to know what really makes an adventure game. I'd probably say it's about 3 things. 1, having the spin dash and the slower than boost gameplay that allows for more open environments like you had in SA1. Like the stages in SA1 and even 06 just felt a lot more open than they did in like the daytime stages in Unleashed or the modern stages of Generations. Second thing I'll probably say is a somewhat serious story. You know, I know Heroes didn't have a serious story, but most of the games in the adventure era had somewhat deep plots. SA1, SA2, Shadow, 06. And the third thing would be multiple playable characters. These are the things that I think would make an adventure style game. Now I know some people would say Child Garden, but I don't know if that makes an adventure game, seeing as it's not even a part of the main game. It's like a side thing that you don't even have to do. It's not required to complete the game. Plus, I swear, like, some of the advanced games had child gardens in them as well, so I wouldn't say that's a thing that makes or breaks an adventure game, but it would be nice to have that. But if we do happen to get a 3D classic Sonic, and we know we're getting a serious story based off the trailer, then that just leaves the multiple playable characters part. Now, of course, other characters are going to be in the story. We don't know for sure who's going to be in there, but we can assume at least Tails is going to be there, and most likely others. But since we haven't seen gameplay, and they weren't in the trailer, we don't actually know if there are going to be other playable characters besides the two Sonics. But the whole join the resistance thing that was at the end of the trailer really hints at multiple playable characters. I mean, the word resistance can be defined as a secret organization resisting authority. So kind of like the freedom fighters in Sonic Sat.AM. Plus, someone on Twitter made a very great observation from the trailer. By the way, if you don't already, follow me on Twitter at premydaremy, shameless plug. But this guy said, "That's an oddly specific choice of colors for some random blocks of concrete, don't you think?" And what he's pointing to is in the trailer, modern Sonic dodges 3 separate blocks of concrete that are colored very specifically. The first one was 3 different shades of blue. Now, 2 of these shades resemble modern and classic Sonic. Maybe the other shade of blue is just there as a coincidence, but maybe that hints at a third Sonic, I don't know. But that particular shade of blue is very dark, and it resembles Sonic from Sonic Adventure 2, because SA2 had the darkest Sonic ever. And I don't mean in terms of like story or themes or whatever, I mean literally the shade of blue that Sonic was in SA2 is literally the darkest that Sonic has ever been. So maybe there's going to be Dreamcast Sonic, but that's just speculation. Now, the second block of concrete was basically the shade of Knuckles. It's like that kind of red. It basically looks like Knuckles. And then the third piece of concrete was basically the color of Tails. So from what we can see, maybe Tails and Knuckles are going to be playable in the game as well. Or maybe they're just hinting that they're going to be in the story, but I guess we already knew that. But let's just think for a second that Tails and Knuckles are going to be playable. That means we would have classic Sonic, modern Sonic, Tails and Knuckles as playable characters. I'd say that's pretty adventure inspired, since Tails and Knuckles were playable in both adventure games and in 06 and in Heroes. But at the end of the day, we don't really know for sure, so I guess we'll have to wait to know if anyone else is playable. After all, it's just a teaser trailer and the game doesn't come out for another year or so. That being said, a lot of people have bashed the adventure games for the other playable characters that weren't Sonic or Shadow, so maybe Sonic Team is still scared to do that, I don't know. But with classic Sonic potentially being 3D, that could qualify as a separate character with its own playstyle different from modern Sonic, because you would have the spin dash and the non-boost gameplay, and then modern Sonic would have the boost. So even if it really is just classic and modern Sonic playable, with the other characters just being in the story, it would still kinda qualify as multiple playable characters. And who knows, maybe the other characters will chip in, like how the Amigos did it in 06. Sure, they won't have their own story, but you'll be able to play as them from time to time. Plus, this game has had a lot more development time than 06, so if they really wanted to, they could have a few Amigos in the game and really polish their gameplay and make it really fun to play. Even if they didn't have as many as 06, even if they had just 2 or 3, I think it'd be a welcome addition to the game. So with all this taken into consideration, I think it's possible that this game could be some sort of adventure and modern Sonic hybrid. But of course, with just one CGI trailer to go on and no gameplay, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But what do you think of my ideas? Do you think they're plausible? And do you like the ideas that I've proposed? Let me know in the comment section, but yeah man, the Remy out.